Critical vulnerabilities are trending, and PHPFusion does not want to be left out. They took our jobs! But it doesn't sound that funny with AI. And my Flipper Zero is making people angry. Thanks, Ray. All that and more on today's episode on MSP Dispatch.
This episode is presented by OIT VoIP. Enhance your client's communication abilities with our VoIP solution, featuring integrated billing, on-demand training, and live US support. Collaborate seamlessly with Microsoft Teams integration and put your entire phone system in your pocket with Mobile X. Improve your offerings and increase profitability with reliable service for 1/10 of the average MSP acquisition cost. To learn more, visit oit.co or dial 844-CALL-OIT.
Good morning to the September 8th episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. I'm Tony Francisco, and today I'm joined by my guest co-host, Mr. Phil Buck, who actually does all of the amazing back-end production of the videos, making me frankly look not bad. Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm back on the show. I'm so pleased to be here. It's always such a privilege to be on the show. And I bet people like yourself in Florida are asking, why is Phil wearing a beanie and long sleeves? It's one, because I'm in an ice box down here. I'm in the dungeon and it's freezing. It's like 80 degrees outside, but I'm in the basement right next to the AC. But two, I wanted to show up as myself. I've done this show like 4 times and I've always tried to be the MSP Dispatch Phil. Well, today I'm just the AI Roundup Phil. I wanted to be myself and be comfortable in the show.
So for those of you who are just listening, Phil actually runs a podcast called the AI Roundup. AI it's exploding across the board, and Phil is deep in the trenches and looking at different angles of it, different uses of it, different vendors coming out, the same vendors using different versions of AI in different use case scenarios. So if you have not looked at the AI Roundup, it's on YouTube. It's part of the MSP media network. I mean, it's an incredible gathering of all this data. Phil is one of the amazing sources of information. So him jumping into this is incredible. So with that, let's kick off episode, was it number 146? 146. Awesome week. It was a week ago. We went through the flood here in Tampa, which actually caused a lot of problems on electronics. One of those weird electronics that people aren't talking about are cars, electric cars, etc. But in Engadget.com, they just published something that talked about Tesla topping the list of creepiest car makers out of 25 brands. So let's talk about this, Phil, because when we're looking through this, you and I are laughing about stuff on the backstage. The Mozilla Foundation's Privacy Not Included Research Division labeled some of the cars as the worst product category for data privacy. In their study of 25 car brands, none passed the reviews, and Tesla was heavily criticized for its autopilot feature, which obviously was involved in a number of deaths and crashes. But, and this is where I hand it back to you on your thoughts, brands like Nissan and Kia were called out for collecting data on users' sexual activities. This is where I stop and I pass the mic to you. Phil, go.
You touched on right on the part of the article that stood out for me. I think Simon set us up with this one. I think he knew exactly what we were going to pick up on. But I just got to say, speaking of being comfortable, I'm sorry, Nissan and Kia, there's nothing going on in the backseat of my car that you want to see. It's usually just full of screaming toddlers saying, why can't I use YouTube on my iPad? And it's because I don't have internet in the car. Yeah, I don't know. I did go look into this.
Maybe that's how they're coming out with their feature sets from the screaming toddlers.
There you go.
And they're saying, well, it's clearly the seatbelt clip in this part of the middle with sexual activity is causing a problem. So maybe if we move it back a little bit, do you understand how they're evolving our user experience? Oh my gosh.
You know, this just makes me love my old used hand-me-down cars even more. It wasn't until the end of the pandemic that I bought a car that had any of these features. And now I'm ready. I'm just take the Toyota back, and I'm going to stick with the 2003 Honda Accord. I think that'll work for me.
And with that, you know what we should get into?
The news?
Let's get into the news. Jumping into my first story from darkreading.com, PHPFusion, an open source CMS used by around 15 million websites, has two uncovered vulnerabilities. The critical flaw CVE 2023-2453 enables remote code execution through malicious PHP file uploads. Another CVE 2023-4480 allows file reading and writing on the affected system. Both are present in PHPFusion versions up to 9.10.30 with no current patches. Exploiting the major flaw requires both user authentication and knowledge of a specific endpoint. Depending on user privileges, attackers could gain control over servers or steal sensitive data. The lesser vulnerability originates from an outdated CMS component. Phil, so just to be clear, this is not PHP. There's going to be people reaching out to us saying, oh, PHP is flawed. Blah. Well, this is a critical flaw, and let's talk about the moving parts here. You need to know exactly where this endpoint is. You need to know the user's account, and it's very difficult to get either of those for a variety of reasons. I call it threading the needle. I am fascinated when you have to. Now, if you can do a search for something and find a variety of exploitable opportunities, finding a matching authentication process, it's not as difficult as you think it is. But finding a single point with a matching authentication process for that single point, that's threading the needle. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, is AI the one thing that can be used to find this, or are you not are you not seeing this from the angle of any real concern?
I'm not seeing this from an angle of AI. I mean, I guess maybe it can increase the number of attempts to find this, to thread the needle 1,000 times, and you get it one time. I get that. But yeah, I was reading the article. I was really curious. It seems to me that, this is another Discord IO situation. Is this confusing people because they think it's PHP? Is this a big nothing burger? Because it does sound like that the developers didn't respond to the information. So did they believe, hey, this is actually not much to worry about, but then it was released, and then now it still seems like it's difficult to pull this off? Is that a fair assessment, or am I just not familiar enough with this?
I think you're hitting on the head. So the Discord.io, if everyone remembers that, another story from here at MSP Dispatch. I don't know if we can point it this way.
I'll have to
that was one of the stories that actually caused quite a bit of feedback from everyone else there. Are you saying that Discord has been corrupted? And the answer is no. There has been a third party portion with the same name called Discord.io. Not Discord, and there was a vulnerability and exploitation that occurred there, and it caused a ripple effect. That being said, I think the same exact thing is going to happen here with the name PHP. Now, that being said, I don't believe we're talking about dehydrated water. I think we're talking about just to create conversation. I think the PHP Fusion is something that's used quite often, and it was used for a very long time. And I think everyone's moving away. It's kind of like using Cold Fusion from way back. Gosh, so many things developed in Cold Fusion. And so, but as things are moving away, there are things that are still there. And because of that existence, you're going to have exploitations occur over and over, and there will be an accelerating ramp-up curve. So for everyone out there that's using PHP Fusion, please upgrade, check your version. Look at what you have. Maybe there's an iOS or a server inside one of your items that's using 9.1. No, was it 9.1.0.3? Okay, maybe you're using a 9.1.0.2 or under, because you haven't updated the firmware or the iOS, whatever's in there. Please just check your stuff and update this. The last thing you need is to give someone 50% of the puzzle, and just for the betterment of the community. But that being said, there are a lot of ways to have to be exploited, to have your data stolen from you, but to have your entire existence stolen from you, and the one thing that does it is AI. I think, Phil, you are the one person to talk about. I think they took our jobs. Next story.
Let's talk about it. In our second story, we caught wind of this from Ars Technica by Binge Edwards. Go Media, the parent company of Gizmodo, recently fired the staff of Gizmodo en Español and replaced them with AI translations of English articles. The move was made public by former Gizmodo writer Mateus S. Zavia, who stated that an AI literally took his job. Previously, Gizmodo en Español had a team that created original content specifically for Spanish-speaking readers. The site now includes a disclaimer that articles are automatically translated, cautioning readers about potential translation errors. The transition to AI hasn't been seamless. Readers have reported articles that abruptly switch from Spanish to English, presumably due to glitches in the AI system. This decision by Go Media follows a trend in the media companies using AI to reduce labor costs. And we previously covered a similar story about Go Media's influence on Gizmodo's IO9, pressuring them to publish AI-generated Star Wars listicles that were, surprise, surprise, inaccurate. Okay, so Tony, I think you and I even talked about that particular article because it's so funny. Why in the world do you need AI to do something so trivial as write articles about Star Wars? But I think this one is pretty troubling. And I mean, the trend that we see again and again, at least that I've been seeing on AI Roundup, is people, especially in journalism and publishing, are putting AI to use, and they're just not monitoring the output. I was curious to talk to you about this because I think both you and I put ChatGPT to use to kind of like not translate, but to interpret our articles. But you don't just feed an article in and then just read back what it says, do you? I mean, you're looking at the articles and stuff, right?
Hold on just a second. ChatGPT, what do I say? No, Phil, I would never do that. So just to be clear, for the edification of everyone here, there are times where, hey, we're doing these articles so fast that I literally, and there's a learning process here. So let me explain to you: copy, paste, sort out the sentences, make a few edits, and then read it. There are some times where, and some of the audience members have pointed this out, where I'm kind of stumbling. I read it for the first time, never just copy, paste, read. Okay. Now, let's talk about how we got there. Here's a URL, ChatGPT, give me the summary of this. Then I look at it. And then we've read it online. Hey, and then we have some of our production staff, Phil and Simon, on the back end saying, that is nowhere near the article.
It was written by Chris Brown. I don't think it was Binge Edwards.
Wait a second. How is Clint Eastwood running Tesla right now? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. And there are some of the funniest reference points in there. And we recognized that the metadata that's inside the URL that's being read can almost bleed into other areas. So the way around that is to literally copy and paste the text from the article into ChatGPT for a summary, keeping it factual. Then I'm doing that in two different, use that in Claude and ChatGPT, paste with the same summary, summarize this article, keep it factual, and then I can look through the bullet points and say, this makes sense. I then take one, typically, and paste it, and then I sort out the sentences, and then I read it right there in a notepad. And the reason I use Notepad is because it strips out all of the HTML components that are in there in the metadata, and it allows me to sort it out per line. Then I keep it a certain amount of lines, and then that's what I read. So for the edification of everyone here, and the answer to your question is yes, I use ChatGPT and Claude, and I use the subscription version of ChatGPT, which I don't know if there's any difference. But I am terrified all the time. Ever since you guys pointed out, what do you mean Madonna isn't running the United States anymore? It was the most fascinating. The people weren't even mentioned in the article that I was reading about, and you guys pointed that out.
Well, I think the key takeaway from what you're saying is that there is some editorial oversight on your behalf here, but I love how this guy, the CEO of Go Media, we've talked to him, and he sounds like a supervillain from Captain Planet or something, where he's just like, I will fire all the journalists and replace them with AI. I'm like, how is this real? How are you I don't get how this happens, but I'm just going to take an opportunity here because I don't get to do this very much, and it's a perfect lead in to our next story. I just want to say because we we love to use the dolphins on this show, and I figured you have something about dolphins, a famous dolphin flipper you could tell me about.
I do. And in my next story from TechCrunch.com, hackers can now use a device called the Flipper Zero to bombard iPhones with incessant Bluetooth pop-ups, prompting connections to Apple devices like AirTags. Demonstrated by a security expert referred to only as Anthony, this Bluetooth advertising assault disrupts iPhone use. TechCrunch successfully tested the exploit on multiple iPhone models. While some signals had limited range, others reached across the room. Attackers are effective even if Bluetooth is disabled via the control center. At a hacking event, a similar device was used to spam iPhones. Anthony, as mentioned before, has designed an extended range version but hasn't disclosed its specifics due to potential misuse. Solutions that could include Apple validating Bluetooth connections and limiting device connection distances. Apple has yet to respond. So, Phil, this is, I want to point out this little device right here, the Flipper Zero, was given to me by Mr. Ray Orsini. Thank you very much, Ray. I'm not saying there's any correlation to my possession of the Flipper Zero and my name being Tony Francisco, also known as Anthony. I'm not saying there's any correlation to me, and I'm not saying that I have absolutely developed an extender for this Flipper Zero to 16 feet comfortably. I did, by the way. And so I think I went to dinner with Jason Slagle and Adam Slutskin talking about this in Tampa, Florida. And I remember saying, hey, I developed this extender and blah, blah. And this is a while ago. And Jason goes, what firmware are you using? And I said, stock firmware. This is Jason's reply. He goes, and I say, please guide me in your ways, Jason. Please. And he goes, oh, there is some disruptive firmware out there. And so even though I've taken to what I consider to be next level, I hurt my neck looking up at Jason Slagle saying, how did you get up there? But so let's Phil, let's talk about something. So everyone, I don't know if I could say this without being too politically incorrect. So Kelly, my wife, calls this fraping, which is phone something. And what I used to do, and this is literally 8 years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago, we used to send obscene pictures through AirDrop at trade shows, and it wasn't obscene. It would have the cover of something really nice, but then it would turn into something like someone throwing up or something. It was just horrible. Yes,
well, I wanted to share this with you because this has actually happened to me at a show before I learned I could turn off my AirDrop settings. I got this literal picture sent to me over AirDrop, and I thought, what the hell is going on? But I mean, this is that on steroids, is it not?
This is exactly. So just to be clear, Matt Hahn, who's like a brother to me, who is an amazing human being in the MSP world. He knows his stuff and security. Matt Hahn and I used to sit in these facilities at ConnectWise, IT Nation, at DattoCon, all the big things, and we would just do these all day and just hear the screaming and yelling and be laughing, laughing. That's all we would do the entire time. That's all we would do, and apparently that's what's that called? Immoral. And it was funny and at the time, but I don't condone doing that. Don't ever do that. It's very bad, people. But the point is, this is taking it to a whole new level because you're actually disrupting the functionality of a device because you're continually prompting them. This is where I point out what I consider to be my initial exploration of this. Since there is NFC, near field communications, and Apple Wallet, what I was experimenting with is if you could fluctuate the Apple Wallet trigger from approximately 16 feet away, you could get someone to prompt you for an authentication unbeknownst to them. Wow. If you did it fast enough, it shuts the phone off They can't, there's nothing there. And that's what I was playing with. I think they are going to start exploring this more and more. And I was doing this at least 7-8 years ago with Matt Hahn. I know.
Just remind me, if I'm ever at a conference or something with you, to stay at least 16 feet away, is what you're telling me?
16 feet. No. I've been playing with this for years, and I've gotten out of that, but I'm aware of that. Hence my paranoia, my neurotic behavior. But this show helps me because it lets me focus on things for the betterment of everyone without me recognizing what I can do to everyone, which means that they can be done to me. I just recognize whatever. Yes, come here. Come bring your phone closer. Bring your phone closer. So with that, awesome articles. I would love to hear from everyone out there on the MSP side. Do you have a flipper zero? What are you going to do? Are you letting your clients use Apple AirTags? Is that a little bit too much? Do you shut Bluetooth off entirely? Do you instruct them to turn off Bluetooth? Not just from the control center, but actually going into settings and turning off Bluetooth. Is that something that's commonplace for you, or do you have maybe another route? We'd love to hear that. Please comment. We'll actually talk about it in the next show. So with that, let's jump into some notable mentions.
In my first notable mention from bleepingcomputer.com, Microsoft has announced that, like its voice assistant Cortana, they will be giving WordPad the boot in an upcoming Windows update, though no specific timeline was provided. WordPad has been a staple text editing application on Windows systems since its debut in 1995 with Windows 95. The company recommends Microsoft Word as a replacement for users who need rich text support, and Notepad for those requiring only plain text. WordPad has been an optional feature since the release of Windows 10 Insider Build 91551 in February 2020, allowing users to uninstall it via the optional features control panel. While Microsoft didn't cite a reason, earlier this year the Qbot malware exploited a flaw in WordPad to infect computers. What can you say? It's the end of an era. And in my next notable mention from CNET.com, Zoom is expanding the capabilities of its AI Companion, a generative AI tool integrated within the video call platform. The enhanced features will be available at no additional cost for existing paid users. Immediate and future rollouts, including enabling users to catch up quickly if they're late to a meeting through a side panel, receiving post-meeting summaries, highlights, and smart chapters, and even providing real-time feedback on meeting performance. By spring, the tool aims to offer coaching on conversational and presentation skills. Generative AI summarization for team chat is also on the horizon. Along with features like auto-completing sentences and scheduling meetings directly from a chat, Zoom assures that it does not use customer data to train its AI and is leveraging its own large language models, along with those from Meta's Llama 2, OpenAI, and Anthropic to power these features.
And in my first notable mention from bleepingcomputer.com, Microsoft plans to disable outdated TLS 1.0 and 1.1 protocols in future Windows versions, starting with Windows 11 Insider Preview builds from September 2023. Existing Windows versions should not be affected. The change aims to enhance security as these older protocols are vulnerable to cyber attacks. Some applications, including certain SQL Server versions, might face issues post-disablement. Users can temporarily re-enable these protocols if required, and the decision aligns with the 2018 joint effort by major tech companies to phase out insecure TLS versions. The NSA has previously highlighted the risk of outdated TLS. And in my next notable mention from bleepingcomputer.com, 3 critical remote code execution vulnerabilities affect ASUS routers, specifically models RTAX55, RTAX56U, V2, and RTAC86U. These popular routers, mainly used by gamers and high-performance users, have flaws rated 9.8 out of 10 on the CVSS v3.1 scale. These vulnerabilities are due to format string issues, which can allow unauthorized code execution and arbitrary operations on the device. Taiwanese CERT identified the vulnerabilities as CVE 2023-39238 and CVE 2023-39239 and CVE 2023-39240. ASUS has released patches addressing these flaws, and users are advised to update their router's firmware and disable the remote administration feature to enhance security.
And some feedback from YouTube from a username that I am not going to read to you all, but you can see it on the screen. I really don't like Duo for desktop MFA, but I'm not really aware of any alternatives. Closest I've found is using Windows Hello for Business, combining passwords and pins with TPM chips, but insurance companies frequently don't consider this MFA. That is a great point, and thank you for weighing in on the conversation. If you have something to say about this from our previous episode about Duo, hit us up on the MMM Discord. And now a clip from this week's episode of AI Roundup. From Wired by Camille Bromley, Michelle Fournet, a professor at the University of New Hampshire, has spent a decade cataloging the vocalizations of humpback whales. She believes that a specific call, known as a whoop, is a way for whales to announce their presence to each other. Fournet has collaborated with the Earth Species Project, which aims to use AI to create a synthetic whoop and decode animal communication more broadly. The project is part of a larger movement to use machine learning algorithms to sift through massive data sets of animal sounds and behavior. While the immediate focus is on sorting data, the ultimate goal is to understand animal communication patterns, which could have conservation applications, such as emergency alerts for mass stranding of dolphins. And here to talk to me about that is Corlu, High Songmaster of the North Atlantic Gyre. Welcome, Corlu. We're big fans of dolphins on the MSP Media Network, but you're the first whale we've ever had on the show. So thanks for joining us. And what are your thoughts about the efforts to decode animal communication with the use of AI? And now let's take a look at some events taking place across the community and here on MMN. On September 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Tradecraft Tuesday, Understanding Evil, Reverse Engineering Malware. And on the 13th through the 14th, an in-person event, Cybersecurity Marketing Roadshow in Newark, New Jersey. And on September 14th, another in-person event, the MSP Revenue Generator in Toronto. And coming from the MSP Media Network this week, we have on Sunday the 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, MSP Community Live, Episode 10. And then on Tuesday the 12th at 7:30 p.m., Wins and Losses, Episode 9. And coming on Wednesday the 13th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, AI Roundup, Episode 27. And as always, on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, MSP Dispatch, presented by the MSP Media Network.
So how'd you like today's show? If you like it, please hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, hit it 3 times or 5 times or an odd number, which makes you like it, kind of, but not really. In your mind, you won't like it. Regardless, if you want to hear more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on your YouTube or favorite podcatcher. Did you know that we also have a Discord where we post all of these stories all week long? You can even propose your own stories, and we'll vote on it to see which ones we'll cover. As Ray's friend, Rich Banky, says, make sure you tell a friend. And be sure to follow us on social media at MSP Media TV. Do you have any questions? Email news@mspmedia.tv for answers on the next episode, or just leave us a voicemail at 833 MSP Network. So Phil, I love having you on the show because you actually know how it works. And I do believe from the bottom of my heart, you are talking to AI to figure out what you should say. Talk to me.
I'm leaving a voicemail for the MSP Network. Got mostly you on it, but now it's got me. But yeah, they need to leave us some messages. I think the only one that ever hit us up was Drew Hacksworth. Come on, get in there, y'all. We got to hear those voicemails.
Oh my gosh, please, someone, you know what? Now all we're going to do is play the funny voicemails from our MSP audience. This is going to be a whole new segment of the show. These are the B-reels of us pre-dolphin-y kind of stuff. Anyway,
I challenge the listeners, leave a voicemail and I will take your voice and put it into one of those AI looking animation things. Just as long as you give me permission, you know. But
no.
Very weird.
Then you reply back. It took our jobs with AI, but now we have the hecklers, but AI version originating from a human version.
I like this. This is what we need.
MSP community, you are incredible. Phil, thank you so much for co-hosting today. I love it.
Thanks for having me.
episode number 146. With that, everyone be safe. Phil, wrap it up, land this plane, passing it to you to sign off.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We love you and enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next time.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.
Critical vulnerabilities are trending, and PHP Fusion, one more time.